Well, it's been a rough run-up to the U.S. presidential elections with Donald Trump and Democratic nominee Joe Biden going head-to-head. And today, Americans will be heading to the polls to choose between the two men. eNCA correspondent Jagruti Dave says it's unclear who's the favorite. Earlier, she spoke to my colleague Tumelo Mututwane about what's expected.
Both candidates are incredibly, President Trump, for example, has a huge support base, when you look at his rallies and his crowds. But in the polls, there seems to be a different story that's being told. Joe Biden has consistently been in the lead in national polls. But of course, the race is being more closely contested in those crucial battleground states like Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, where Donald Trump ended his campaigning, his last rally in Michigan, in Grand Rapids, the same place that he ended his 2016 campaign. And Joe Biden has also spent a lot of time in Pennsylvania and in Sunbelt states like Florida. Kamala Harris has spent a lot of time in Texas. She has been appealing to black voters in those areas, trying to get the vote out. There are some concerns among Democrats that there might not, that there might still be trouble getting the votes of minority voters out there on Election Day itself. Remember, we talk about Election Day, but almost 100 million Americans have already cast their ballots. This is unprecedented, historic number of people who have cast ballots early, and there's an expectation, therefore, that there's going to be similar surge in in-person voting on Election Day itself.
Now let's get some analysis on this US vote from political analyst Siphamandla Zondi. Professor Zondi, good morning and thank you very much for your time. I mean, sitting here in South Africa and watching this election campaigning unfolding, one has sort of picked up some of the key themes being around coronavirus, of course, the difference of approach between the two men, racial tension has been heightened by all kinds of situations in America, issues of climate change and the economy. But if you're a South African and you're looking at this election, what should you bear in mind as Americans go to vote today?
One, that is the election is perhaps one of the most important elections the U.S. has had over a long period of time, at least for the U.S. citizens themselves who have turned out in huge numbers, pre-election votes that almost got to 100 million. Can you imagine having people vote before the election day? Almost 100 million people vote. That's a huge, unprecedented interest. And these pre-election votes, in some cases, outnumber or surpass the final voting figures in a number of states. Huge interest in it. Secondly, is that like all elections, this election is a sort of a referendum on the sitting president. It always is like that. And therefore, the issues that relate to this president's performance, positive performance, done very well with the economy, for the U.S. economy, not the global economy, but for the U.S. economy, it's done quite well. It's done quite well for his constituents, especially in the middle states, in relation to their concerns about immigration and things of that nature. He's done very well also for the constituency that sees the U.S. as a bully, as a strong man that bullies everybody around it and able to display that power. But in other grounds, on health general, he hasn't repealed, he tried to repeal the Obamacare Act, and he has not been able to do that, but he has not presented an alternative. Now this COVID-19 is really battled to deal with it. It's firm at some point, then it moves back, and very inconsistent, and the outcomes are really damning for him. So he's strong on economy, and the numbers favor him, but he's really done badly on health. And thirdly, he's really done bad in relation to issues of national cohesion and strengthening the state in the U.S. and democracy.
In the last few hours, Joe Biden and Donald Trump have now closed out their campaign as they race to the White House. Well, Trump is already there. He's trying to stay there, and Biden wants to get a bite at it. Do you think Biden has made a good case for himself to be considered a worthy president to replace Trump?
He didn't need to do much. Trump needed to do a lot to help Joe Biden campaign. Because it's a referendum on Trump. The focus isn't that much on the alternative candidate. It's got interesting policies that have been put in place, decided by the Democratic National Council, and he's really said that there are all the right things. He doesn't lack energy. He doesn't lack the verve. He's quite old as well. But he's running up against a leader who has his back against the wall. So that might help him. So it might not actually be a victory for Biden, but it might be a defeat for Trump. And Biden has also not been able to respond to that question raised. I mean, we're running on Trump's record and say he's done badly. But Biden can't really string nice sentences around what has he done in 4 decades in the government space and stuff. What has he achieved? Because sometimes you run elections on the basis of what you've been able to achieve, however small those things are, voting right and taking the right decisions at whatever stage, in the Senate or the House of Representatives, wherever you have been.
Now, we in South Africa and the rest of the continent, I mean, what should we hope for? Should we hope for Trump to remain in the White House? I mean, he's referred to our countries with that famous description of his, which I won't repeat on air now. And we've also heard about Joe Biden's views on international relations. I mean, should we be hoping for Biden in the White House, or it doesn't really matter?
Not much. I would just simply say, for the global economy and for the global system that exists now, Biden is a better president. He would pursue a policy of negotiation, of firming up the international system, supporting multilateral decisions in some cases. But the U.S. is still the U.S. It does pursue its national interest, macho politics, and the superpower posture, which we're very uncomfortable with. Whether under Biden or Trump, those would be areas of discomfort. But Trump is worse for us because of his transactional foreign policy and his use of tariffs. And his unprovoked war on China, which is impacting the global economy and therefore impact us. So it's a choice between who is a better devil of the two.
Yeah,
and Biden.
We're going to have to wait and see. As you said, it's a referendum on Trump. Americans will be going to the polls to decide. Nearly 100 million votes already counted. And just a final question. There are some concerns in some parts of America about unrest, about violence. I understand businesses in the capital, Washington itself, and New York, in parts of America, have closed down because they don't know what to anticipate. And also there could be that small matter of a delayed declaration of the final results. Should we be concerned?
Even bigger is the fact that President Trump has refused to confirm that he will abide by the results of elections should they go against him. That's a huge danger. We've known this on this continent about presidents refusing to take defeat. And that's the biggest danger because it will stoke up those fires. The U.S. has been on tenterhook for a bit of time. The protests, people are unhappy, positions are hardened and stuff. You just need one spark for that to explode, which is why we had that beautiful joke by a Kenyan diplomat talking about South Africa must be ready to intervene in the U.S. should they be in trouble, to try and mediate and try and get them together, which is what the U.S. usually does everywhere. Now the U.S. might be a focus of that. So it's a huge test for their democracy that if things are uncertain, and there is even fear that there must be breakout of violence, at least among supporters, because they've all been worked up a little bit, especially Trump's side. It's quite worked up.
No matter how you look at it, a lot of drama surrounding this election. We'll have to wait and see what the next few hours will bring to us. Thank you very much, Professor Siphamandla Zondi.